A free man thinks of nothing less than of death, and his wisdom is a meditation, not on death, but on life. Spinoza, you are not free. Not when her glance burns your chest. Not when her silence hollows out your bones. Not when her pleasure dictates your rhythm. You call it love. She never needed to, because you did all the kneeling for her. You mistake her pull for fate, her withdrawal for mystery, her body for grace. But what if none of this was personal? What if your suffering is not because she is cruel, but because you are still a slave to every electrical signal your body emits at the sight of her? Spinoza didn't speak of love the way you were taught. He spoke of motion, force, reaction, determinism. He said everything you feel, everything is part of a chain of causes. And if she can ignite pain or joy inside you, she is still your cause. You, the effect. And that means one thing. You are not the subject. You are not the thinker. You are not the axis. You are a puppet being yanked by desire, shame, jealousy, hope. Her smile, her thighs, her detachment. None of it was about you. It was always about control. Not evil. Not deliberate. Just nature. Instinct. Spinoza's universe doesn't judge, but it reveals. And you still dancing under her gaze are revealed too. Not as a man, but as a reflex. As long as she moves and you follow, you are hers. Not because she loves you, but because your nervous system has not yet detached from her spell. This is not heartbreak. This is physics. And the man who does not break is the one who no longer responds. You think she smiles because she's kind, because she sees you, because she feels something. But Spinoza said, clearly, every expression is a movement, and every movement has a cause. Her smile is not intention. Her smile is a trigger. You forget that the curve of her lips is not hers alone. It belongs to biology, to utility, to millennia of female instinct perfected in silence. A woman does not smile to give. She smiles to bind. You flinch. The corners of your mouth respond before your mind does. Your breath changes. Your attention locks in. Already, the leash tightens. She does not need to speak. She never had to. The smile does the work. You call it beauty. Spinoza would call it a cause. And your reaction, your warmth, your desire, your anticipation, an effect. One that proves you are not free. The free man, in Spinoza's terms, is not the one who feels nothing, but the one who is not determined by what he feels. But you are still programmed. Her glance scripts you. Her approval edits you. Her silence erases you. She smiles. You soften. She looks away. You freeze. She touches her lip. You mistake it for invitation. You rewrite your actions around her smallest gestures. This is not love. This is a neurological leash, and her smile is the collar. Because if she smiles and your heart rate spikes, you are not a man. You are a circuit, and the wire still runs through her fingers. You say, I just like making her happy. But she is not asking for your happiness. She is only watching what you do when she lifts the corners of her mouth. That's how she learns your programming, how deep you've sunk, how easy the next command will be, and you will call it connection, while she calls it calibration. A smile does not require sincerity to enslave, only your response. Break that, and you begin the return. Respond again, and the leash tightens. Every time you interpret her smile as salvation, you hand her the keys to your nervous system. You call it love. Spinoza calls it bondage. She hurts you, and you flinch. She withdraws, and your thoughts collapse inward. She sighs with boredom, and your stomach knots. You do not ask why. You obey. Spinoza said, "A man who is subject to emotions is not his own master." So who is your master now? She didn't crown herself. You did. In the trembling, in the begging, in the sleepless nights where her silence became a god. You think your emotions are proof of your love, but they are proof of your programming. She triggers something and you spiral. The fact that you spiral means she still owns the script. You respond because you are still possessed, not by her, by your own reactions to her. That's worse. You are not chained to a woman. You are chained to your response to her. She can be gone for weeks. Still, her absence rots your spine. That is not love. That is dependence. And dependence is never romantic. It is mechanical. You think the pain means depth, that she stirred something sacred. But pain is not sacred when it is predictable. It is not profound when it is repeatable. She sighs. You search yourself for guilt. She cries. You kneel to atone. She laughs with another man. You disintegrate. Spinoza warned, "He who is guided by emotion is carried to and fro, a slave to fortune, and her moods are your weather. When she rains, you drown. When she shines, you grow. But only weeds grow, like that sudden, erratic directionless. This is not strength. This is volatility. The volatility of a man ruled by touch, by tone, by suggestion. You say you're loyal. You say you're caring. But Spinoza would say, you are not ethical. You are reactive. You are not loving. You are unstable. She doesn't need to strike you. She only needs to lean slightly away, and your soul comes undone. A word withheld, a text delayed, a compliment not given, and you wither. This is what makes you hers, not her hands, not her love, but the fact that you feel too much, and that you feel it automatically, without awareness, without resistance, without choice. Spinoza defined freedom as the power to act according to the dictates of reason. You act according to the tremble of your gut, the ache in your chest, the shadow of her smile in someone else's direction, and she sees it, that she can move you, and so she does. Without lifting a finger, she becomes a sorceress, not by malice, but because you never burned your own spellbook. You think she is complicated. She is not. You are simply too tangled to see clearly, so she controls you. Because emotion controls you, and as long as she can press those emotional buttons, you belong to her machinery. She moves her hips. Your mind exits. She breathes slower. Your sense of self dissolves. You call it magic. Spinoza calls it cause and effect. She doesn't have to want you. She only has to suggest that she might, and already you become soft, malleable, rewritable. You say it's her beauty. You say it's your nature. But Spinoza doesn't flatter instincts. He dissects them. He reminds you all, desire is determined. Every pull toward her curves, her scent, her voice, is just your mechanism responding to external motion. A gear turning because another gear moved first. Not freedom, just programming. You think sex connects you, but it divides you. It splits your reason from your flesh. And once they are split, you no longer speak for yourself. Your mouth still moves, but your spine is gone. You say yes when you mean no. You change plans. You shift beliefs. You sacrifice structure for the possibility of her touch, Not the guarantee, just the outline, just the idea that her skin might allow you entry. You have become a dog chasing a shadow. She undresses, and you believe it's for you. But nudity is not an offering, it's a switch. And you flip. What is male freedom when it can be bypassed by thighs? Where is your will when your pupils dilate at her arching back? You are not thinking, you are reacting. She leans forward, and the centuries of philosophy collapse. She whispers, and you abandon your plans. She moans, and you dissolve into obedience. There is no strength in this, only heat. And heat left unchecked burns through principle. You say, it's natural. So is gravity. So is decay. Spinoza would ask, is the natural always virtuous? If nature controls you, you are no different from a falling rock, moved by forces beyond itself, moved but never moving itself. She smiles during climax. And that is your reward. That is what you kneel for. Not love, not eternity, just a flicker of approval at your performance. And you call this intimacy. But sex in this frame is not union. It is leverage, because she knows every time you climax, a part of you dies. And every time she withholds, a new command forms inside your mind. You are not addicted to her body. You are enslaved by what it does to your sense of control. You chase it to feel chosen. But each chase proves that you are still not choosing. A man ruled by sex is not a man. He is a reaction machine, with a name, with a beard, with nothing inside that can resist soft skin. You are being rewired through pleasure. And the one who rewires you is not your lover. She is your operator. And you are a mechanism. Until you can say no to the way she breathes. Until you can remain unmoved by the flicker of her desire. You are not free. You are flinching. And flinching is not love. It is control. She says nothing. And that's what breaks you. Not the scream, not the insult, not the rejection, but the stillness. You stare into a screen that no longer lights up. You wait for a response that doesn't come. You spiral, not because she left, but because she hasn't confirmed her departure. Spinoza warned, "He who is moved to hope or fear by things of which the outcome is uncertain is not guided by reason." You wait in uncertainty, and while you wait, you rot. You imagine 1,000 meanings behind her silence, but none of them come from her. They all come from your bondage, your addiction to interpretation. You call it care, but it is obsession. Not over her, but over what her absence does to your control. She is not passive. She is not confused. She is conducting you with silence. And you perform. Every delayed text is a tightening of the leash. Every day, without her voice, is a trial by hunger. You are not waiting for her. You are waiting for permission to breathe. That is not devotion. That is slavery. You don't notice how quickly silence turns into chaos inside you. She withdraws affection, and your structure collapses. She stops responding, and your mind fills in the blank with horror. She posts a photo, and your heart accelerates like a hunted animal. But what exactly did she do? Nothing. That is her brilliance. She does nothing, and it works. Her silence is a scalpel. You do the cutting. Your hope is the trap. Your fear is the chain. You say she's busy. You say she's healing. But the truth is you don't know. And in that vacuum, your will implodes. Spinoza believed that the man who understands causes does not suffer. You, on the other hand, worship unknowns. You feed on ambiguity. You attach meaning to her vanishing. You call it a test, a challenge, a phase. But silence is not a phase. It's a method. She has learned. Your mind resists confrontation, but it cannot resist uncertainty. So she weaponizes what you can't decode. No blame, no violence, no words, just absence. And you fill that absence with your own unworthiness, your own projections, your own deterioration. You check your phone again and again and again. Every minute she doesn't speak, your center collapses another inch. This is not love. This is dependency. You thought silence meant distance, but silence means control. Because if she can disappear and you lose your axis, you never had one. Spinoza would ask, what kind of man is unmade by another's quiet? And the answer, a man who was never built on his own voice, only on her echoes. You don't need her answer. You need to stop needing it. Until then, she doesn't even have to speak to rule you. She just has to pause, and you will finish the destruction yourself. She touches your hand, your breath steadies. She calls you by name, your chest warms. She leans in eyes, soft, voice low, and you call it love. But Spinoza wrote, men are deceived in that they think themselves free. Their opinion consists in this, that they are conscious of their actions and ignorant of the causes by which they are determined. You are conscious of her affection. You are not conscious of the machinery behind it. Not hers. Yours. You are deceived. Because her kiss feels real. Her gaze feels sincere. Her concern feels divine. But feeling is not proof. And affection is not truth. It is choreography. She knows how to tilt her head, soften her tone, sigh in the right moment. She knows how to ask, are you okay? Not because she's curious, but because it buys compliance. You don't see this, because your system craves validation. And she supplies it like a dealer, in doses, small, measured, timed. You mistake her timing for intuition. But performance is not love. It is control through narrative. A woman doesn't need to lie. She only needs to act. And you only need to believe. Her kiss on your neck after days of distance. Her tear during an argument. Her confession of childhood wounds. You see transparency. But Spinoza sees causality. What caused her to share that now? What result did it produce in you? What new leash appeared in your mind? You didn't notice, because the performance was good. So good, you gave her the benefit of the doubt again. But doubt is the currency of slaves. Free men do not trade in excuses. They observe, they dissect, they detach. You think she changed? She didn't. She adapted. That's not the same. The tears, the gestures, the whispered lines, they are part of the act, a script refined by generations of unconscious instinct. Not because she's evil, but because it works. You want her to mean it. She wants you to obey it. You want sincerity. She wants leverage. The show gives her both. She wraps her arms around you, and you forget the last 3 months of withdrawal. She moans your name, and you forgive every avoidance. She posts you on social media, and you feel claimed. But performance isn't proof. It's bait. And if it still works on you, you are not her partner. You are her mirror, reflecting back the role she needs you to play. And she plays her part, because the act keeps you close. Close enough to steer. Close enough to harvest your energy. Close enough to reset your doubts until the next scene begins. The next silence, the next manipulation, the next cycle. You say, but I feel it's real. Spinoza would say, then you are still deceived. Affection is not dangerous. Your blindness to its purpose is. You are moved by her affection, moved. That is the problem. Until her kiss becomes meaningless, until her voice no longer recalibrates your spine, you will continue to believe the performance, and she will continue to write it. You don't need her to stop acting. You need to stop reacting. Only then are you free. Not when she stops performing, but when her performance becomes irrelevant. She calls. You let it ring. She cries. You do not flinch. She posts a picture in his jacket, and it doesn't register. Not because you hate her, not because you've healed, but because she no longer governs your emotional machinery. Spinoza's final man is not bitter. He is not enraged. He is unmoved. Because he knows freedom begins where reactivity ends. To not react, this is not weakness. This is sovereignty. She has become noise. Not silence. Not song. Just sound. You once believed your value was in how deeply you felt, how loyal you stayed, how wounded you became. But Spinoza would laugh, because the man who bleeds for another's absence is not loyal. He is unformed. You were shaped by her voice, her moods, her withdrawal. Now, you are a shape of your own. She can press. You do not yield. The glances bounce off. The suggestions fall short. The body no longer stirs you like a hypnotic rhythm, not because it isn't beautiful, but because beauty no longer has authority. You have stepped out of the field of influence. You no longer orbit. You generate gravity. She says, I miss you. You nod. She says, you were the only one who understood me. You do not respond. She says, do you still think of me? And you say, I don't think of you. I think of what I once allowed. There is no revenge here, no anger, only stillness. And that stillness is unbearable to her, because it means she no longer matters. Not to you, not to your heart, not to your chemistry, not to your direction. You have become the unmoved mover, not a reaction, not a reflection. A man, Spinoza wrote, the more you strive to live according to the dictates of reason, the more you are free. And reason tells you she was never herself the problem. Your reactivity was, you watched, you burned, you begged, you dissolved, and then you stopped. Now, you walk past beauty without bending. Now you hear the sob story and do not inherit the guilt. Now, you see the game without being drawn to the dice. This is not detachment. It is liberation. The absence of need, the end of negotiation, the collapse of hope. You do not wish her well. You do not wish her ill. You do not wish, because nothing she does can move you now. Not her pleasure, not her pain, not her love, not her loss. You are no longer her instrument. You are no longer the echo of her presence. You are no longer the project of her attention. You are now the original sound, no longer tuned to anyone's frequency, especially not hers. And so the leash falls, not because she dropped it, but because you burned your end of it. Freedom is not loud. It is not vengeful. It is not flashy. It is silence. Inside, and when she finally looks at you again, searching, testing, aching, and finds no door left open, no strings left tied, no emotion left to manipulate, she will know. She can no longer reach you. You are free. The more you struggle against your emotions, the more you are enslaved by them. But the man who understands them, he is already free. Spinoza, she cannot reach you now. Not because you've hardened, not because you've hidden, but because you've seen that every flutter of her eyelashes, every calculated silence, every breathless confession was never yours. It was for control, soft control, invisible, but devastating. You understand now that her power never lived in her. It lived in your response, in your automatic reflex to serve, to protect, to chase, to ache. You fed the system. You interpreted every gesture like scripture. You obeyed the rhythms of her voice. You bowed to the hunger her absence created, and you called it love. But now, the spell has dissolved because you no longer crave her presence. You no longer flinch at her distance. You no longer rewire yourself to fit her moods. This is not numbness. It is clarity. You are not above desire. You are beyond enslavement because no woman can use you if your emotions do not betray you. And betrayal, that was always the wound. Your own nervous system turned against you. You once believed you needed to be loved, but now you see the truth Spinoza pointed to. You only needed sovereignty, to be the origin of motion, not the echo. She cannot control what no longer reacts. She cannot rule what no longer seeks. She cannot manipulate what is no longer dependent. Her tears, her curves, her disappearance, they land in the void now. You see them. You do not become them. Your body no longer betrays you. Your soul no longer leans toward her. Your mind no longer begs for closure. This is what she cannot understand, that she did not lose a lover. She lost leverage. She lost the mechanism, the puppet, the pattern, and now there is nothing left for her to pull. You are not angry. You are not broken. You are not hoping. You are absent from her influence, from her system, from the entire emotional economy she trades in. You are now the man Spinoza described, the man who acts from reason, not impulse, not ache, not hope. She cannot decode you anymore because you've stepped outside the language of pain. She may still perform. She may still seduce. She may still vanish, but the machine no longer moves. You are not her project, not her reflection, not her proof of power. You are the axis, fixed, calm, immovable. And when you walk, you do not walk away. You walk unreachable. Because love is no longer necessary. Because she is no longer a god. Because your nervous system now belongs to you. You are not her reaction. You are not her result. You are not her echo. You are freedom. And she is just another test you passed in silence.